Hi everybody, it's Nikki Jameson here, and I'm back again with another brush demonstration from Corel Painter 2023. So you may have watched a couple of my other videos in this series, or what's become a series, where we've demonstrated a few brushes that come with Corel Painter by way of exploring some of these brushes that I'm going through these, and I thought I'd share with you what I'm going through, and hopefully we can discover some brushes. And if you have Corel Painter, you haven't used these brushes, you can learn what they do and adapt them if you want. It's just a little bit of an exploration. So I was playing around with these brushes, and today we are going to look at the Oils Bravura. So in the last video we looked at the general oils, and I think we've looked at some thick paints, and we've looked at some scrumble brushes. Bravura, I think, made an appearance in Painter 2022. So let's start by going through these brushes. I was painting on a thick paint layer for some reason, but I'm going to go to the top, and we'll play around with these brushes. So this one is the pointed flat rigger. If I can find my paper library here, I'm going to make some changes to I'm going to increase the scale a bit and increase the contrast and the brightness, and I'm going to do some random grain rotation. So if I make the brush a little bit bigger, this one doesn't interact with the canvas that much, to be honest. Yeah, let's go to the next one, tapered detail, and I'm going to try. Let's choose a different color. I'm going to try and so this is a detail, and I actually got to try and calibrate this brush. Ideally, you should calibrate each brush before you use it. What that will enable the brush to do is to pick up the pressure and sensitivity of your own way of painting, which could be different from the default. Okay, so yeah, this one is okay. I think you could use this for sketching. Actually, this will be a good one to actually sketch with. It's a very soft brush. We have it at this is quite a small size. Let's push it up a little bit. Yeah, at a bigger size, it's a bit more. It's smoother. It builds, so you can see the paint is building up as I paint on this. It's not quite like an airbrush, but it really does build up the paint here. And the reset is 76. So if I took that down, I suspect it would become a blender brush. So it's still very oily. All these brushes are very oily, but look what happens when I take down the resaturation of this brush. It completely blends the paint, and that's actually quite nice because you can use that for smoothing lines or hard edges. It's very useful. I like finding blender brushes, especially blender brushes that do double duty. So that's tapered detail. Let's move on and do the blocky oil. I suspect this is going to be one of my favorites. Let's pick a nice blue. Okay, so the blocky oil. This is a really nice one. You can see it's interacted a little bit with the paper grain. Did I reset that? I think I did. And this is also a very oily brush, which is a reset of 50 at the moment. And should I take the reset down, you see it will blend, and it actually becomes a little bit more luminous, which is pretty cool. Actually, if you're putting paint down, you want to have the reset up. So this is it at 100% reset, and then if I reset it to its, or maybe make the brush smaller. Experiment with making the brushes smaller, because they can do very different things, and you'll get a very different stroke depending on the size you use. Okay, so that's a smaller size. So that's blocky oil, and clearly you can use this for blocking in. Make it a bigger brush and then block it, do some blocking in. Alright, so buttery. I think as its name says, this is going to be a, let's see, we've got painter colours here, a very buttery feel. Actually, let's reset this. So this is a very, very oily brush. Very oily brush. Actually, let's move that away. And yep. So this is definitely a locking in brush. The reset is 96. If I take the reset down, let's see what happens here. So this is not really a blending brush because I don't think this is the way it would blend. So I think it would just be a painting brush. Let's take the reset back up. And I would make this actually a smaller brush to see what it did. Maybe about 15. So at 15, let's just see. This is what you would get, which is very different from this orange one. So this could also be a sketching brush as well, or you could use it for sketching. But that's very different. So if I reset it, it becomes like a much bigger brush. And you could also, if you wanted to, let's just show you here. You can change the dabs for these brushes. So since Painter 2022, you have the ability to change the brush dabs on some of these brushes, so you can get some really interesting brushes or brush strokes just by changing the dabs. And you can see this is a stroke preview. It's an enhanced cover brush, and it's a soft alpha blend. I'm not sure what a soft alpha blend is, but it is doing something here. So messy oil. Let's what do we want to do for messy oil? Let's choose a light blue here. So let's reset that to its default. So messy oil in its default is another oily brush. As per its name, it has kind of like a messy stroke. Okay, so the 2-inch landscape, it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Versatile. It's a versatile brush. At its default, it paints really nicely. This is a size 43. You can make it quite a bigger brush. This is the stroke. And you can blend with it. So this brush pops up in a few brush packs that I've actually either purchased or bought or used, and it has a very, very nice blendy effect that actually interacts somewhat with the paper. So I don't know what this is very, very abstract, so don't judge me by this, whatever it is I'm creating here. Okay, 2-inch landscape, that is one to watch. That's a go-to knife, a go-to brush rather. So brushy. I don't want that because that is too close to the color. Brushy. Let's reset this. It's a large size. It's another oily brush. It's very smooth, and it's also very. These brushes are very expressive. So you could do whole paintings with these brushes, and you could blend in. You probably wouldn't need to go outside this brush pack to get any to blend, because these blend really, really well, most of them. See what they're doing? And I'm just using everything on one layer, but And the bigger you make this brush, oops, might be a bit big. Painter is a lot more stable now, so oops, that's not. So increasing the size doesn't crash the program, which it sometimes would do. So I like messing around with brushes like this. Get some pretty decent, odd looking abstract. So you can see what the brush is doing here. And if I take the brush up, it's gonna add paint. I'm just sampling paint here. Save me going back and forth. Okay, so you might not want this edgy bit here, but this is what it's called brushy, and it's showing the brush stroke. Okay, where are we now? Chip bristle is showing the bristles. Let's paint on top of this. This is a nice brush. Make sure I've reset it. Oh, so it's a very bristly brush. So that's really good. That's really nice. Chip bristle, textured stipple. This is a stipple brush. Quite self-explanatory. If I reset this, it will do something similar. So some really nice color, and you can see what it's got blending abilities. When the brush has got, you see this yellow piece, it means it's got blending abilities. I should have mentioned that earlier. So that's textured stipple, and as it by its name, it picks up some texture. Rough oil. Let's reset rough oil. This is one of my favorite brushes, which I should show in a much better color. I just love the texture, and I could just use this brush forever, quite frankly. It's so expressive, it's so oily, but it is let's go to my color wheel. It has these very nice textury qualities, which I absolutely love. And if I go down to the reset, it blends really nicely. So you could paint with it, and then blend with it, and then paint with it and blend with it, and you'll get something really interesting, even if you're doing a non-abstract painting. And if you are doing an abstract painting, you could use this to add texture and areas of interest. For some reason, every time I talk about areas of interest, I go to that blue. I'm not sure why, but so then you could just blend. This is a great way to know what these brushes do, and this is in its basic default. You can of course change any of these brushes or most of these brushes so that you have variants of these brushes. Okay, that's rough oil. That is a favorite of mine. In fact, I'm going to mark it there so I don't forget it. Rough edge blender. This is already set. Here we go. This is a blender, so don't think it needs much explanation. It basically, make sure I reset. It basically blends. I love this blending all this colour together. Oh, it's just yummy colour. So this stipple that I've put down, you could blend all of that back and forth. Okay. And angular mottler. Oops, let's reset. This is a painty, oily brush. It don't think I need to calibrate that. It's good practice, but let's just see if it does something different. It does, actually. What about that? It behaves very differently. I have a light touch, not a heavy touch. Anyway, this is the angular Mottler, and it's in its default it's a reset of 65. Mottler dry. So this is a dry brush that interacts with texture. So this is what it's doing in its default. It actually has, it looks like it has some color variability. Yeah. So if I press hard, I get this dark blue. If I do light, I get the lighter color. So it's picking up these two colors here. I probably used my rough oil to kind of blend all this in so it looks a bit different. Oil dabber. Let's see what this one has to say for itself. So this is another oily brush. Very nice smooth brush, and I love this. I don't even know how to describe this. It's adding kind of layers of colours, and if I press harder it covers a bit more. So it's blending as it's putting down paint. So if I rotate my brush, it's putting down paint, and if I rotate it the other way, it's blending it. That's a beautiful brush. It is actually really, really nice. So you can see it's blending here. If I sample, it'll sample that. And the last one is the rag blender. So the rag blender, that is a blender. This is a blending brush. I think it's similar to one of the blenders that we've looked at. If I set it to its default, I guess it gives a really ragged, bristly blend stroke. This is also a very, very nice brush. It doesn't paint, at least I don't think it paints. Well, it's a reset of 0. Let's see what happens if we... Oh, that's interesting. Well, I should always try things out. I would not have expected that. Let's sample this. So, even this is called a rag blender. It is a textury brush. And it can actually lay down paint. And then I guess if you turn it down, the reset, it will blend. Okay, so I'm going to make that a smaller brush. We finished looking at the brushes. These were the Oil Bravura. If you've watched this far, thank you very much. And I hope I will see you in the next vid. Bye.